2 ways to get out of debt if you're a country. 3 ways, actually. You can turn the economy around and reverse the trend. You can certainly do that, but they don't ever seem to want to do that. The other way, you devalue the currency. Okay? So that way, the people who hold the bonds, they don't get that much money. In other words, I hold a $2 billion bond. Okay, well, that's now worth $1 billion. That's all you get. Sorry, because the currency has been devalued. And you think, well, that's a good way to do it, right? Here's the problem with that. The Social Security check that you get every month for $1,500, it's only worth $750 now. How are you going to spend that money? How are you going to live on $750 a month? The $500,000 that you have in the bank now, which is enough to retire on, forget it, because it's only worth $250,000 now. Everything you have is now worth half. Okay. The other way is runaway inflation. But again, that's the same thing. If a pack of hamburger costs $5 at the store, you have runaway inflation, and it now costs $15 at the store, you can't buy hamburger anymore. So runaway inflation, or devaluing the currency, or the least used method of getting out of debt, turning around the economy to fix the problem. Those are the 3 ways to get out of debt. The only 3 ways to get out of debt. Now, let's get back to my original plan on part 2 for getting out of this pandemic problem we have with the COVID-19 virus. The COVID-19 disease, the coronavirus. We continue listening to the smart people. But there's other smart people as well. There's economists, more statisticians, and there's other doctors too, okay? And 2 particular doctors I've listened to recently and studied some of what they had to say. One of them is Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She's a nutritionist, and basically she has some interesting ideas on how to best prepare yourself against the coronavirus, okay? And it has to do with health and nutrition. The vast majority of people that die from the coronavirus are old or infirm. In fact, this is an old statistic. I don't have a new one, but as of about 3 weeks ago in St. Charles County, where I live, 81% of all people that died of COVID-19 were either in nursing homes or 80 years or older. Think about that. Over 80% of all people that died of COVID-19 were 80 years or older or in a nursing home. In other words, they had lots of bad things going on before this thing even came. In other words, there are extenuating circumstances. Okay? Dr. Patrick also gave a very interesting statistic about vitamin D and the way it prevents disease. And again, she says, look, I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a epidemiologist. So I'm giving you statistics, and these statistics you can't ignore. What do they mean? You can make some assumptions, but here's what she had to say. In the Philippines, 80% of all that died from COVID-19 to date were vitamin D deficient. In Indonesia, of those that died of COVID-19, 98% of them were vitamin D deficient. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean if you take vitamin D, you won't die from COVID-19? I don't think it means that, but it means something. In this country, African Americans seem to be a lot more affected adversely than white folks. Why is that? Well, some people have said, well, it's because they're poor and they don't have good health habits, and that could well be, because the rich are always going to have more than the poor. And just as a matter of statistics, white people as a whole have more money than black folks, okay? However, something else to consider is that in this country, a disproportionate amount of black people dark-skinned people as a whole are vitamin D deficient. The reason being is they have more melanin in their skin. Melanin prevents sunlight, vitamin D, from infiltrating the skin and having the body process it, because that's the most natural way to get vitamin D, through the sun. So if you have a disproportionate amount of black folks dying of COVID-19 and a disproportionate amount of black people being vitamin D deficient, you have to pay attention to that. In other words, if you get healthy and you get COVID-19 or get the coronavirus or get COVID-19, there's a better chance that you are going to be asymptomatic, or come out of this just fine. There's another doctor, Dr. Peter Hotez. He's a doctor from Sweden. And Sweden did things differently than we do them, okay? They basically didn't shut much down in their country. They basically said, look, just do the smart thing. Wear a mask in public if you want to. If you think you're sick, wear a mask. Stay 6 feet away from people. Try to be smart. Wash your hands. But they didn't shut down the schools. They didn't shut down the bars. They didn't shut down places of employment. Certainly, if you are sick, don't go to work. If you don't feel comfortable, don't go to work. If you can work from home, work from home. They basically told them, just be smart about this whole thing. When you look at the numbers in Sweden, while their numbers were worse than other Scandinavian countries in people contracting the virus and dying from the virus, they were much better than many, many European countries. Now, Sweden is not us, and I've said this many times, because they tend to do the right thing and listen to authority. Where in this country, we put the middle finger up to authority and do the opposite just because that's the way we are, okay? Dr. Hotez seems to say, look, we're not going to get a virus anytime soon. And he bases that on the fact that all the smart people say we don't know. We could be 18 months to 2 years away from a vaccine, which is the same thing we said 3 and 4 months ago, if you remember that. So the numbers just keeps on being pushed back. It's tomorrow. And if you and when you have that mañana mentality, mañana never arrives, okay? So his solution is, let's go with herd immunity. Herd immunity and vaccination is the same thing. Once you get to about 60% in herd immunity, up to 70%, you're basically there, okay? Now, take care of the folks who are at risk. If you have a compromised immune system, if you're old, if you have other problems, you need to stay away. Shelter in place. Other folks, maybe not so much, okay? These are ideas. Smart people. The other thing Dr. Hotez says that I think is very, very telling is different people in different parts of the world are truly different. Sure, in this country, we can shelter in place for 2 months. We have. And while we've had an economic impact, we've been just fine in the big picture. In many developing countries, third world countries, you can't shelter in place. You can't stay home because many, many billions of these people live truly hand to mouth. And by that, I mean they go to work during the day, they come home, and on the way home from work with the wages that they've earned, they buy food for the family. So if you don't work one day, you don't eat that day. If you go 2 months without working, you go 2 months without eating. What happens when one goes 2 months without eating? Congratulations, they starve to death. And many statistics have said, look, if many of these third world countries shelter in place and shut down their economy, there will be more people that die of malnutrition than would have ever died from COVID-19. We are not they. And once again, you can point the finger at the colonialists telling indigenous peoples how to act when their lifestyle is nothing like ours. All of those are things to consider. Now, before you start giving the whole routine, okay, here you go, strong. You're just a capitalist pig. You're not going to listen to the smart people in government. Your money rules over everything. You are a money-grubbing capitalist pig. Not like the good people of California, okay, where the government wants to keep everything shut down, most everything shut down until this thing's gone. Let's talk about Alameda County, the Bay Area, Fremont, California, home to Tesla Motors. Elon Musk, who I have a lot of respect for the guy, and he is Elon Musk is on another plane than you and I, okay? He is either worlds smarter than you and I, or he needs to be put in an institution. I'm not sure which. For right now, I'm going to say he's just smarter than you and I. But the opposite could be true as well. Elon Musk basically told the state of California, actually the state of California says, you know what? You can open your plant. But Alameda County said, no, you can't. You got to keep it shut down. So Elon Musk basically said, give the people back their GD freedom. That was a quote that he had. And he mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast and on many publications, he says, look, I'm opening up my plant. I'm going to do it. I don't care what the government does, because Ford, GM, Chrysler, Hyundai, Kia, Honda, everybody else can open up their plants, but I can't. I can't compete. I can't compete with the other players in this industry if they won't let me make cars, because manufacturing, you can't work from home. You can't put fenders on a Tesla from home. You cannot do that. Manufacturing means hands-on, doing physical work. Alameda County said, you better not, or we'll throw you in jail. Musk said, I'll be here on Monday morning. Come and get me. Oh, and by the way, not only am I pulling my factory out of your stupid state, I'm pulling my headquarters out of your stupid state. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Alameda County backed way off. Musk opened up his plant. The sheriff showed up and he did an inspection. And basically they said, yeah, they're not really manufacturing here. They're listening to everything that we said. They're doing a little bit here, a little bit there, but they're not truly manufacturing here. So thumbs up, good guys, we won. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because while they weren't physically making cars, they couldn't physically make cars. Again, because they don't understand manufacturing. The Fremont plant in California has their stamping mill as an integral part of the plant. In other words, they have to stamp out hoods and fenders, and then they assemble hoods and fenders onto cars. They were in the process of stamping out hoods and fenders. So, of course, they weren't manufacturing cars yet. Now, is the sheriff that stupid? Is Alameda County that stupid? Is the state of California that stupid? No, because when Musk said we're pulling our factory and our headquarters out of your stupid state and moving it someplace else, they, my friends, were the money-grubbing capitalists. Well, wait a minute. You mean we're going to lose all that tax revenue if he does this? Never mind. You can do whatever the hell you want. That's basically what they said. Okay? So again, before you point the finger at me, we're all in this together. We're all money-grubbing capitalists to a certain extent. It's kind of like the whole thing, well, I haven't lost my job, so things aren't bad. And that's the old adage, what's the difference between a depression and a recession? A recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose your job. In other words, the state of California says you still need to shelter in place and you cannot open up your factory. Oh, you mean we're going to lose tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue because you're moving out of our state? Yeah, never mind. It's okay. You can do what you want. Okay? That's what's going on here. So again, in summary, don't go crazy. I'm not saying we need to open up every bar, everything, go back to packing the restaurants. No, we don't want to do that. We don't need to go crazy. But like I say, the goal to success is almost always compromise. We can't shelter in place until a vaccine is found because, as the smart people said, we don't know. We don't know when a vaccine is going to be found. We don't know when we're going to have enough testing. We don't know the percentage of systematic people to people who actually have symptoms of the virus. We don't know how many people have had it and recovered. We don't know, once you've had it, can you get it again? We don't know any of this. That's what the smart doctors have told us. So we need to continue to listen to the smart doctors, but we need to listen